In my life, I've heard many horrible words. Of course, some of them were directed at me. You're a single woman, you're a scumbag. But I've yet to hear an insult as bad as the one my brother-in-law used on me. I'm not going to let my brother-in-law's slanderous remarks go unchallenged. My name is Amy Smith. I am 38 years old, single, and working. Why do I have a brother-in-law when I'm not married? That's because I'm engaged. James, my fiancé, is 6 years younger than me. We met through a mutual friend and hit it off right away. I have a very hectic work schedule, and I often have to work on my days off. I met James in the midst of such hard work, and when I am with him, I could relax and spend time together. James is good at cooking and sewing, and a hard worker, all of which I am not. After we moved in together, he did housework and even cleaned my suit for me, which was extremely helpful. I am always sorry, I know you're busy too. I've reserved a table at a nice restaurant for my next day off, so let's have dinner together. It had become a habit for me to treat James to dinner like this, for the hard work he puts in every day, with the money I earn from my hard work. Don't worry about it. I can leave my job on time, and I'm not nearly as busy as you. Most importantly, I do housework because I enjoy it. James always says to me, "How are your family's plans for our upcoming meeting?" We had already met each other's parents shortly after our engagement, but we wanted to throw a dinner party for both families to get to know each other. James has one older brother, while I have two younger siblings. Instead of meeting at the wedding, both families suggested that we get to know each other beforehand. So we decided to bring both families together, parents and siblings included. "I'm sorry, but my brother can't come because of his work," James explained. "I know you're also busy with work, so please accept my apologies." "Your brother is a very talented lawyer, isn't he?" I asked James, who bowed his head. "I wish I could have met him, but if he's busy, then it can't be helped. We can meet at the wedding." In fact, I wasn't too worried, because I thought it was important for the couple and parents to get together, even if the siblings couldn't. My brother can be cold to people, so even if he does come, I'm worried that he might be rude, James said. He appeared tense. On the day of the party, my brother-in-law was, as it turned out, not present. James looked relieved that his brother wasn't there. My brother and sister were both there, and it turned out to be an enjoyable party. My parents-in-law and I had a good time, and my siblings seemed to be like James, which relieved me. It was a fantastic opportunity, and I only wish I had met my brother-in-law. The day came to an end with that in mind. I never imagined that when I met my brother-in-law later, I would think he was such a rude person and that it was a good thing I didn't meet him at the dinner party. My mother and I were at the university hospital one day. My mother wasn't feeling well, so she was referred to this university hospital for a thorough examination after visiting a clinic near my parents' house. Other than palpitations and dizziness, there was nothing to worry about, but I decided to take my mother to hospital in case anything happened to her before the wedding. My mother, who is in her mid-60s, appears young, but she could be diagnosed with a serious illness at any time. She had worried me by delaying marriage until she was in her 40s, and I felt I owed her for raising my brothers and sisters so well. "Why don't I pay for you to have a thorough checkup, Mom?" I suggested. I had never felt so strongly before. This is what I have been earning money for. I want to assist in situations like this because I can't take time off from my family. Because the test could not be completed in one day, we had to go to the hospital several times. The tragedy occurred during the second of several hospital visits. The university hospital was extremely crowded that day with long lines. My mother and I were waiting for a turn with a cup of hot tea in a space away from the waiting area where we could eat and drink. My phone then rang. It could be a work call. I left my tea with my mother and went to a location where I could take the call. It was indeed a work-related call. It was a call to check that I was not going to change my surname at work when I joined the family register. I returned to my mother after the phone call and I heard some yelling. What was she screaming at in the hospital? I hope my mother is all right. When I realized the yelling was aimed at my mother, I dashed over to her. My mother rose from her seat and bowed repeatedly to the man in the suit. Who is he? He was wearing an expensive-looking suit as well as a luxurious-looking watch and shoes. Pullback hair, full of pride. The man who is yelling at my mother looks like a debt collector. He didn't appear to be my mother's friend, so I inquired as to what was going on. Excuse me for interrupting, I said. Did my mother harm you in any way? The man shifted his gaze to me and examined me from head to toe. She placed a cup of tea or something on the seat, and when I sat next to her, it fell and stained my suit. What are you going to do? I have business after this. I examined his suit more closely, and it did appear to be slightly damp. I apologized sincerely. Let me pay for the dry cleaning. I tried to say, but the man was unconvinced and interrupted me, yelling even louder. The man shouting inside the hospital naturally drew a lot of attention. A few nurses came out, and a crowd quickly gathered. I'll let you off with a cleaning fee, the man said, perhaps realizing that the situation had evolved. Do you have any contact details? How can I contact you? He inquired. Oh no, I didn't have my business card. I always have on hand on days like this. A security guard called out to me. Are you all right? Is everything in order? Is there a problem? The gentleman clicked his tongue and tossed his business card at my feet. Make sure you call me, he said. There's no point in fleeing. I have a close relationship with this hospital, and I'm sure they will share your information with me. What on earth is going on? My mother and I are both sorry. I tried to fight back, but he took one look at my hand and said, You're single at your age? Women are said to have an expiration date, but you're not only expired, you're unsold industrial waste. You're like raw garbage, a single woman. He was rude once more. As I was about to respond to the insult directed not only at me, but at my mother, the man took off running to avoid being pursued by the security guard. What's up with that impolite demeanor? I'm furious. My gut was churning with disappointment over not being able to protect my mother and the rude man's comment. I bowed lightly to onlookers and security guards who had rushed to the scene out of concern and picked up the business card that had fallen at my feet. I was curious as to who the jerk was. I was perplexed as I read the name and title. So that's what all of this was about. I canceled the checkup and returned home, prioritizing my mother's mental health care. I'll never forget that guy. I'm sure I'll make him regret his rant against me and my mother. I went to the courthouse about a week later. Of course, it wouldn't be like in America, going to court over a stain on a suit. I saw a man I recognized walking toward me from the end of the main hall as I moved through the familiar halls, my heels clacking on the floor. I knew it. What should I say to him? I wondered. As I was thinking, he looked up at me as I passed him and said, "You're the trashy single woman from the other day, aren't you? You've got to be kidding me. What exactly are you doing here? This isn't the place for you." Yes, this is the same man who assaulted my mother and me the day before. I wanted to say something harsh to him right now, but I have an evil side to me. Every day I think about how I want to completely destroy evil by using my strong sense of justice. Oh, I'm very sorry about the other day. I believe you are Tom Dixon of the Honeywell Law Office. I brushed aside his rude outburst as I remembered his business card that had been thrown at me the day before. The man took offense and started talking about the suit incident, his mouth twisting in a nasty way. "I had an appointment with a client at the hospital after that," he explained, "and you embarrassed me." I don't understand how a trashy woman like you could stain someone's suit and then not call me back. Dixon worked as a lawyer. Of course, we happened to meet here today by chance. Then, because of his loud voice, I felt eyes on me from all sides. Lawyer Dixon began taunting me in a loud voice that people in the aisles could hear. I guess he wants to brag, even though I'd have to call security if this continues. There are many men like this in the legal profession. I was shaking my head, which irritated Dixon even more. "Mr. Dixon, what's with your loud voice?" said someone behind me. Someone approached me and asked, "Mr. Dixon, what's wrong?" When Dixon saw the man who owned the voice, he changed his tone and mumbled, "Oh no, this woman." As he took a business card from his card case, the man looked up at me and gasped. When I picked up his business card, it said, "Attorney Honeywell, partner at Honeywell Law Office." This man must be Dixon's boss and the firm's CEO. As soon as he realized who I was, he began shaking and bowing at a 90-degree angle to greet me. "Gosh, it's been a while," he exclaimed. "Dixon, my subordinate, has been extremely rude to you. Please accept my apologies." Then Attorney Dixon, who had no idea what was going on. "Mr. Honeywell, what's going on?" "What's going on, Mr. Honeywell? Are you familiar with this lady?" "This is the jerk who ruined my suit the other day and overcharged me for dry cleaning." Mr. Honeywell, who had turned blue, then grabbed Mr. Dixon by the scruff of the neck and forced him to bow. "Ouch! What exactly are you doing?" Honeywell spoke quietly to Dixon. "How dare you, Dixon? This woman is a prosecutor, and she's my former boss, Smith, who always wins every case she takes on." Lawyer Dixon was perplexed. He couldn't believe the single woman he'd called garbage was a prosecutor. "Yes, I am a lawyer. Since I was a child, I have been unable to overlook injustice, and I was torn between becoming a police officer and a lawyer, and I chose the latter. I became a lawyer because I wanted to bring criminals to justice, even if I couldn't catch them with my own hands. I wanted to bring the criminals to justice and judge them under the law. Now I work for the prosecution after being invited by a former colleague to advance my career. As a result, I am frequently in and out of the courtroom for work. By the way, Mr. Honeywell is afraid of me because I looked after him when he was a rookie. He's a serious man, but he's in trouble because the bond between a trainer and a rookie never fades." Attorney Dixon, who had come to a halt in shock, wanted to say something, but I wouldn't let him. "You've grown into a fine man, Mr. Honeywell," I said. "Mr. Dixon, I will pay your cleaning bill without delay. I apologize for being so busy with work. Is that okay, brother-in-law?" "Brother-in-law?" said Lawyer Dixon, his mouth agape. "No way, James's fiancé?" he said aloud as he froze. I looked up at the business card he had thrown at me the other day to see if I could figure out what was going on. This rude man was, indeed, my brother-in-law, who had missed our wedding due to work. As I watched my brother-in-law, I noticed his face turn pale. As a lawyer, you know that comments like, "A single woman is garbage," are considered insulting. I was prepared to pay for the dry cleaning, but your response was appalling. You can be sentenced to 1 year's imprisonment or a fine of no more than $3,000, or both. Which do you prefer? As I said this, I smiled. Attorney Dixon finally fell to his knees and bowed his high head, realizing that his position was in jeopardy. Please forgive me if the press finds out. I suppose assertive lawyers are more aware of the media. Sometime later, I had a successful wedding and now thoroughly enjoying newlywed life. James is now a full-time house husband, and I am more able than ever to devote myself to work for my family. My brother-in-law apologized several times to my mother and I and offered to settle the case. But I decided to ask him to write off the dry cleaning bill and forget about it. I could make the money on my own. My brother-in-law didn't attend the ceremony, most likely because he felt awkward. My brother-in-law's business has suffered significantly due to his attitude toward us, as well as complaints from other customers. I suppose bad deeds are exposed. I promised myself that I would protect this life so that we can continue to support each other.